Guys, let's quickly shift gears here and start talking a little bit about the Labour leader election saga, how it continues to rumble on. A lot was said yesterday by the acting leader, Harriet Harman, as well as others, saying we are not trying to get rid of all of the Corbyn supporters. We are not purging the... I mean, honest to God, for a minute there, I thought I was watching a videotape of Florida.
What, the hanging Chad and all of that?
Well, just the whole idea of the voter purge just before the election. This one's actually happening during the election.
I mean, it goes from fast to fast, doesn't it? It's unbelievable. Actually, Corbyn's come out with this quite good thing, I think. This thing about having a woman-only carriage, to try and stop harassment on trains. That's quite a good thing.
Really?
I'm with you. I'm with you, Dario. How about you teach men not to be assholes instead?
Well, Yvette Cooper said that, didn't she? And all this stuff about it's undermining our progress towards women's equality. No, it's not. But the whole thing, I think, is just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Dario, this is your subject, man. You've been in that bunker with Jeremy.
I mean, it's a funny one, this, because the way that the media has spun that, I mean, he didn't actually say, I've had this idea of having women. He said, women have come to me and suggested that we need to do something about harassment on trains. And, and I'm open to talking about that. That's basically what he said. And then the media says, Jeremy Corbyn proposes Taliban trains. You know what I mean? So it's a media spin job to begin with. However, it's such a ridiculously daft idea to put out into the public sphere to begin with. There's got to be something done about harassment on trains. If you look at the numbers, the percentages are going up. The idea of women being safe in public areas is a massive problem. But this shows, I think, a little bit where there is naivety behind Jeremy Corbyn, and I think he's going to come unstuck unless he gets... he's got to get some kind of political media shielding in this sense, because the honesty and the truth will only get you so far, I think, and that authenticity will only get you so far. Because I think that comment could screw him. I think there's 3 weeks to go. I think that's going to be blown up into a massive thing, and it wouldn't surprise me if that comment costs him the victory.
I quite like that. I quite like all that. So where did you're shaking your head, Dennis?
Because I've been focused on women's issues for so long, and it was particularly around the time of the women being raped on buses in India that this really, I had a woman on the Worldview show segments that we did, and she was absolutely outstanding. I mean, she came on and she said, look, instead of all this garbage, teach men not to rape.
Thank you.
And I went, yeah, exactly.
Or secure the whole train properly.
Exactly. Because it's not right that they're able to then say, because 90% of anybody that's ever been through a sexual assault is already dealing with the aftermath of that, and going through their mind is, what have I done to create this? And that's just total bullshit.
Yeah, well,
you did nothing to create that.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah, so I mean the idea, that's why I have a visceral reaction to a woman's carriage, because we're not taking a look at the systemic real issue here.
No, I am.
It's basically it's one step away from saying it's your fault you got raped because of the way you dressed. You know what I mean? It's putting the blame onto it's victim blaming in a kind of social way.
Yeah. If it's that, that's appalling.
Yeah. I think part of the problem also is that a lot of the seemingly harmless comments, come from our perspective as men. All right?
Yeah.
And we got to cut that shit out, because we have absolutely no idea what it's like to get behind the eyeballs of a woman and really understand what she's feeling and what she's going through.
I'll hands up, guys. I admit defeat.
I'm just getting warmed up here.
Having said that, somebody on Twitter proposed that, people wearing football shirts and travelling from Newcastle to Leeds with Stella in their hand, they can have their own carriage. I'm totally down with that.
The thing is, how old is... Because Corbyn's 66, is he? Is that right? He's over 65.
He
60
looks. He's
anyway.
older than me. That's all I care about.
I mean, at the next election, he's going to be knocking on 70, I think. Is that right?
Be careful now.
Well, I mean, there's
careful
nothing
now.
wrong with that necessarily.
I mean, you got Hillary Clinton, who's in her 60s,
Yeah,
will be in her
yeah.
70s. You got God, for your women's issues, now age issues.
Ages.
What won't you
Get
want
out
today?
here. I mean, I got a thing about. I mean,
Stop digging, Phil. Stop digging.
let me take that spade away from you. I mean, and this is bizarre as well because I actually, I'm not Corbyn.
I know you're not.
I think this whole thing is an amazing farce. I mean, this whole thing where they're saying now, well, they're not going to do it now, are they? They're not going to sort of have a legal challenge, but that was on the cards of the election. This whole idea of saying, to these people, do you support Labour values? If you don't, then you aren't allowed to vote. I mean, who are they to say what Labour values are anyway?
Well, the last time that happened was, 1938 with a certain swastika? Are you now or have you ever been?
What's amusing to me is Labour had kind of noble intentions with the sort of £3 vote. They wanted to kind of make it a bit more open, a bit more democratic. But when it looks like the PLP is not going to get the result it wants, then all kinds of shit hits the fan. So it's a little bit like a microcosm of the problems with democracy in the UK. So many people feel disenfranchised. So I think a lot of people have joined this or paid their £3 to vote in this election because, I mean, one of the things about it is they have this preferences system. And I think that the two main parties, both Labour and Conservative, have always railed against moving away from the two-party system and moving towards proportional representation or something like that. So I think whoever comes in for Labour, I think really needs to push electoral reform, especially with the way that the fracturing of political support is taking place, I think.
In all honesty, that's not going to happen.
No,
because as Labour
Labour
begins to recover, then the Tories will ask for it, and Labour will fight it. The only way it's going to happen is if we start to see other parties do well, and once those other parties start to do well, then you can put together a minority government that works.
The one way that could happen is if those minority parties, as you say, get enough support, and the Labour Party, let's say, requires a vote on some issue. And they do some kind of deal in the other way around and say, look, we give you support on this issue, we want electoral reform. But even the UKIP and the Greens have been talking about how to get electoral reform moving forward because obviously they had a big vote share but very few seats.
Well, 4 million votes to UKIP, and yet they only ended up with a small number of seats.